Hello and welcome to SoulWhat, the Soultopia podcast with our producer, Matt Stoker. I am your host, Michelle Welch.
And I'm Roger Welch. So what's up today, Michelle?
I'm really excited because we have a friend and a very famous palmistry, but also many other things, divine person with us. And so I'm excited for you guys. If you don't already know this wonderful person that is joining us remotely, we are still in Tucson. So if there's a little lag or anything like that, just bear with us because, just roll with it.
Yep.
We got a lot of high energy beings on this show tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and just read this wonderful man's bio. His pronoun, I believe, is he, him, right? Okay. So I'm going to read your bio. James Divine. And this, you guys, is his short bio. I'd like to hear the long one because he's so fabulous. Okay, James Divine has been studying palmistry for over 30 years. Okay, wow, he started when he was like 4. And he's the creator of the Divine Hand Method of Palmistry, a unique method of hand analysis that blends modern observations of body language and gestures with a traditional palmistry. James's unique approach reveals hidden knowledge that is practical as much as it is inspirational. James's mission is to transform the practice of palmistry from common fortune telling to a powerful way to seek hidden truths. James teaches palmistry in an apprenticeship program, presents workshops across the country, and is currently working on his first book. Yay for that. James lives in Seattle with his husband and is a proud stepdad and grandfather. Yay. Hi, how are you doing? And I call him Jim, you guys. So if I slip and say Jim, that's what I go know him as. How are you doing?
I'm great. And yes, please call me Jim. It is my nickname. Oh, I love it. I love being here. I'm so glad I'm with you.
I'm so glad you're here too. And Roger is too.
Yeah.
So you want to jump in and let's just tell them about what's going on at Soultopia right now with the class.
In case you guys didn't know, Jim is actually doing a class for us on Saturdays. It's Saturday afternoons. I believe it's 4 to 6 Dallas time. And right now, you did class 2 on this Saturday, but we did record these on Zoom, guys. So if you do want to jump in, you can actually go ahead, order these links. We can send you the links to those 2 classes, and then you can still catch up with everybody else into it.
Like me, I have to catch up for Saturdays because we were shopping, and so I'm a little behind. And so I felt so left out. This class is phenomenal, you guys. It's fun. Tell us a little bit about your approach. And I'm going to just call it's called the Divine Hand Palmistry approach.
Right, the Divine Hand Method. So as I learned palmistry over the years, yes, I've been doing it for 30 years. I'm 50, right? So that's just what happens. And I started reading palms at a little bohemian coffee shop in my hometown of Tucson, Arizona, where you are seated right now, not far from where you're seated. It was near the University of Arizona. It was right downtown. And I would sneak out when I was 16 years old. I had my license, and I wasn't really sneaking out, but I would go down to that bohemian coffee shop and I would read palms. It was in a little courtyard with a fountain. And I would set up in one of the little casitas that was a bunch of little businesses, right? And the coffee shop was in the back. When the businesses closed, I would set up there, 16-year-old, doing palmistry for tips. So that's really where my professional palmistry chops come from, is reading for tips outside a coffee shop in the evenings, right? And Tucson is hot even now. Everywhere up here in Seattle, it's kind of cool still. It's springtime, it's still cold. We need our jackets. Down in Tucson, you're getting up into the 90s already, right? So so you're in my hometown and I'm really connected with it right now. But the Divine Hand Method is a result of me looking at all of and reading books on palmistry and realizing that what I'm memorizing in the books doesn't match what I'm seeing on people's hands. I'm seeing people come in with a suicide line that the books call a suicide line. And I see that this person has a zest for life that is unbounded. I find someone who has a murderer's thumb, but they would never commit, they wouldn't harm a fly, right? And I just started thinking that, these predictive, fatalistic methods that are in a lot of the books doesn't really match how I believe human beings function. And so I started, instead of shying away from it, I decided to dig into it deeper. And what I found is underneath those shallow, one-off murderer's thumb, suicide line, poverty line of ill health are actually something deeper that is a neutral and something that can be used in a positive way. And that is where the divine hand methods came from, is let's reframe, much like what has happened in astrology and what has happened in tarot. Let's look at what the devil card, the death card, the hanged man, the 10 of swords, what do they really mean? What's underneath those supposedly scary symbols that teach us something and that we can use to propel us forward? And that's really the origin of the method.
One of the things that, and you had to start the class with, what are some of the misconceptions? And one of the things that is so notable to me is I am a big believer. I learned the Calvinistic method back in theological school, and I know you were both ordained ministers, and
Right.
so
And I
so
have a big Christian upbringing, very devout Christian upbringing myself before I broke out of that. So
yeah, so it was interesting. People will have the 5-point Calvinist and the 4-point Calvinist. Y'all don't know what I'm talking about. You don't need to. But the 5-point was where you believed everything was predestined. And I don't believe that. And so and then there was like these 4-point, and people used to argue over this. I mean, there were probably wars over this, to be honest with you. Right? Not probably. Back in the way back. And so the way back top machine, right? And so, but a lot of these methods that we are used to using are rather fatalistic. Now we realize that we have, at least in this human form, some mortality, right? But so I believe in being a real reader. But what I love about your method is it presents us as human evolving people. It's not just this set in stone way of reading, because like I could come get a reading to you today, and then I could come a week from now and it might be different in my hand.
that's
Some things
exactly
might be
right.
the same, but the way your method is, you could show me different things, the way I'm holding something, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the misperceptions of palmistry is that your hands never change, that you get one palm reading and you're good for life, right? People look at fingerprints, and fingerprints don't change very much. They do change a tiny bit, but enough to still identify you for your whole life. But that is not necessarily true of your hands and the palm reading. And what it's especially not true about is your hand position. So one of the distinctive aspects about the method of palmistry that I'm teaching that you learned is we can read the position in which someone holds their hand. As someone is gesturing with their hands, they are making unconscious micro gestures with their hands that with a little bit of training, you can learn to interpret. Certainly when some of my most popular posts on Instagram, follow me on Instagram at Divine Hand Jim.
He shares, you guys, he shares so much.
I basically teach you the whole thing.
He gives it away. So, but yeah, you want to hear him teach it, just so you know.
So one of my popular posts is any famous person who's gesturing, right? Remember the inauguration, the most recent inauguration, when Amanda Gorman was speaking her poem and she was using her hands? I was all over that. I had to interpret her beautiful hand gestures. And so that's a lot of fun to do. And so you'll see that I teach people how to interpret hand gesture, and your hand gesture changes all the time. If Roger's in a great mood, he's like, hey, and if he's in the lousy mood, he might not be like doing that with his
Might be
hand.
more like, hey.
Yeah, exactly.
We
And
talked
I'll
about
be
that in
able
class too. Right?
to interpret that middle finger.
Yeah. And he can tell you, and you'll learn in class what planet it is. I mean, you learn and what that means. And it all just comes together like, look at my hands, like he wrote it. I mean, like Jim just knew what that, so it's so cool. You guys,
well, there's something in addition to that. For everyone who already is familiar, a little bit familiar even with astrology or tarot or magical ideas or the planets or the a little bit of Greek myth or Roman myth, I am using the same through lines. So what's great about this is you don't have rote memorization of a whole new system. If you know what Jupiter represents in astrology, and you know sort of the Jupiter sort of ideas, then you know what the index finger means on the hand. And so it's really great for people to apply the same magical principles, archetypes, and ideas that you have in other methods and in other practices to palmistry. And that is why I think it's really effective for a lot of people, because you're learning how to apply things you already know to a new modality of divination. And I think that's a really important key.
I would love for us to go sit and watch a court trial sometime. We're going to have to do that.
Oh my gosh. Next time I'm in Dallas, let's do it.
Let's do it. I'll call one of my, well, we're going to fix that up. Okay. And we're just going to kind of make our notes and see what happened. Yeah, we're going to do that. We could even, like, okay, who do we want on the jury based on that kind of stuff, right? Our intuition, but also that.
I've interviewed people. When we interview people for our magical class that we teach here in Seattle in person, I always look at their hand. I always look at their palm. And I ask their permission, but it isn't a reading. I'm looking for what I'm looking for and sort of understanding, like, how does their hand and their hand gesture match what they're saying? So as my husband is sort of pestering them with questions, I'm observing their body language. So it's a lot of fun to be able to tag team that way.
Yeah, it's kind of, I told Roger, it's a little about, I said, well, when you see a dentist, do you kind of go, and he said, no. And I go, well, when I see Jim, I kind of go like this. Now I don't now, because now I'm just like, oh, Jim, you know me, like whatever. It's like, and so, I trust you, so you'll tell me. And so, or I tell you anyway. Have a horrible
You know what? One of the things about that, people ask me that. They get self-conscious about their hands, in front of me. And I will tell you, the way that this works is we are expressing our body language all the time. Our body language is a tell about our unconscious, our hidden motivations, what's going on. I can read your body language in your face. And so we have these neurons in our brain. This is the current science that we call mirror neurons. And those are the ways in which we create affinity with each other by unconsciously mimicking each other's body language and each other's facial expressions and general body language. The mirror neurons are built to really be programmed to someone's facial expression. And when we think about wearing masks right now and the impact on that, all that, but that's another story. And the mirror neurons are looking at general body language. The mirror neurons are not looking at the hands. And so we will modulate our facial expression, and we'll like puff up your chest, stand up straight, Jim, just go in there like you own it. That's what advice you would give me if I was feeling insecure about something. But I can't mimic my hand gesture. I can't fake you out with my hand gesture, right? And so that's why it's such a great tell. It's such a great way to interpret someone. People say that the eyes are the windows to the soul. I think the hands are like the doors to the soul.
Oh, interesting. Mirror neurons are in my book. Did you remember that?
Oh, that's right. And your book is fantastic. Oh my gosh. Let me just plug it really quick, because we've been using it, and it's been such a great resource. So I'm so glad.
I used to like that show. I'm sorry, you guys, you're going to think this is low vibe, but I like the show Dexter. Yes, I did. And he was taught to, mimic his father, who was a cop, taught him to mimic because he didn't have those. He was a sociopath, right? Sociopath. And he didn't have those I mean, that's what set us apart. It says, from the sociopaths. So I bet the hands weren't taught, so it's very interesting. You had a question.
Yeah. So, a lot of times people that are psychic or readers and things like that, they do have to they have to hit that off switch when they're out in public. They have to like take themselves out of or they're reading all the time and it's a huge strain. What about you? I mean, when you go out, because it's different because people are talking with their hands and they're, doing stuff with their hands. What about you? I mean, how easy is it for you to kind of shut that off?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. It's so easy for me to shut it off. I'm not really reading your hands because it isn't natural for me to do so, right? My mirror neurons are not automatically looking at your hands. I'm looking at your face. And so in order for me to actually read someone's hands, it's work. I have to rely on my training to actually look at your hands. And if I'm looking at you face to face, if we're just talking to each other, and then I'm looking down here like this, and we're talking, you would say like, Jim, what are you looking at? You know what I mean? Look at my eye. My eyes are, Michelle would be like, my eyes are up here, right? And so this is the same thing. If you look at someone's hands while they're speaking to you, it's weird. So you can't always do it, and it doesn't really work that way. You have to be trained and you have to be used to it. And so I love that question, Roger. It's super insightful. And I'm not reading someone, I'm reading the third person in the room. Like if I'm just sitting there and watching someone give a presentation then yes, I'm looking at your hands. Don't worry.
It's interesting that I don't know if y'all went over this at all in the second class, but when we first met, you were talking about rings. And you guys, I want you to go back, anybody listening or watching, go back to one of our very first podcasts. Jim was so kind to be one of our first guests. I don't know which number, I should have looked it up, but it's probably in the first 10.
Yeah.
And he identified people, famous people, and he was very accurate on many, and that's not the point. He was explaining how he reads. He was giving you a little bit of his method. And of course, I want everyone to take the class, but you also talked about rings. And so I put on a couple of rings today, just for fun. Now, some of them are just because I'm a little swollen and that's where they fit, but I don't know if you can see, but tell us, and I'm just holding them. So I'm going to tell you, I'm holding them so my hands don't look old. That's how I'm holding my hand. I have really veiny hands. Okay. So here,
before you hold your fingers up for 10 minutes, let's just talk about what a ring represents.
Okay.
So wearing a ring represents, it's a little bit of a sign of comfort or a sign of support. It's not a sign, but it's associated. It corresponds to support. We wear rings where we want partnership and support in our life. So one example is a wedding ring is indicative of partnership in our ego, in our sun finger, how I identify. People who are married are going to wear that ring and they're going to identify as, I'm married. I'm a married man. I have, and that's an identity we wear on our identity finger, which is the sun finger. Isn't that interesting? So the wearing a ring on any particular finger is this feeling of, oh, I want a little bit of security, or I want a little bit of a comfortable, like it's kind of like a comfort blanket, or it's some sort of like that type of energy. It's support and partnership in that arena. Let me say one more thing. What the ring is made out of brings a vibration into that finger. So I am not an expert in gems and what they mean, but Michelle is. And so together, Michelle and I can do a collab right now on, I'll tell you what the finger means. And Michelle, then you tell us what the stone represents. And then we'll put that together and it's going to be really cool. And so unconsciously, Michelle wore rings on fingers based on what she needed today. And so we're going to learn a little bit about what Michelle was up against today and what kind of support she needed. So it's a little transparent for you. I hope that's okay.
It's fine. I'm a total open book. That's a lie.
It won't hurt. It'll be awesome.
Okay. So do you want them both fingers? Or
Let's
both
look at your right hand. Let's look at your right hand first.
Okay. That's the one with the fingers.
Okay. So you're wearing,
Can you see how big this actually is?
Okay. So that's an apophyllite.
Oh, well, hold on. We'll look at the gemstones in a second.
Okay.
So what you're doing is you're wearing a ring on your index finger and on your middle finger of your right hand. So you can relax for a second now. So the index finger, people wear a ring on the index finger to support their power, agency, and leadership in the world. So this is in business transactions. Michelle happens to be in Tucson at the Gem and Mineral Show. So that tells me this was support in sort of taking the lead and being in charge and having agency and power, but it's also expansion and fortune. So it's the finger of like, give me a good deal type of thing. The middle finger, you're also wearing a ring on, and that's boundaries, rules, and limits. So this is the index finger is Jupiter and the middle finger is Saturn. And so you're wearing a ring on your Saturn finger to say, I have my rules, I have my ethics, I have my, this is what I believe I should be doing, and this is what I believe in. And that ring is comfortable on that finger because I really want some support in that today. I don't want to get talked into something that is outside of my boundaries. I need to hold to my boundaries. So these are the two fingers that you are getting support in today with those rings. So I think both of those rings are silver in color. Is that correct?
They are.
They are. So I know that silver metals are often associated with the moon. And so that brings that lunar energy of the unseen, the strange, but also the seeing beyond the surface, seeing underneath that water, that surface, intuiting like what's going on. Okay. So just stop there before we look at the gemstones. Does that match what you needed today as you went out into the world?
Yes. And they are the same rings I wore all week. So it matched all week.
Yeah.
It exactly matched that. Exactly what you said. Yes.
Amazing. Okay. So what stone are you wearing on your index finger, which is the Jupiter finger? So
this big old rock thing is an apophyllite, and Roger can show my hands. Like okay. So that's an apophyllite. You want to tell them about apophyllite?
Apophyllite is a Reiki stone, so it actually helps with your chakras throughout, and especially the crown chakra, opening it up.
Okay, so you're wearing a stone that helps with the crown chakra at the base of your finger. Not everyone wears a ring at the base of their finger, but those rings fit you where most rings do, which is at the base of your finger. The base of your finger is your root chakra. So sometimes we make a joke, like she's got her root chakra, her head, she's got her crown chakra and her root chakra, but this is actually a really great sort of like creating a cyclical energy between the crown chakra and your connection with the divine and your groundedness. And so having this grounded, centered sort of like connection both ways of your root and being here and now in your Jupiter energy of leadership and expansion and fortune, and being connected with like, maybe this week you were like, something feels weird about that. Let's say no. Or something feels great about that, even though it's kind of weird, something feels right about it. And so, yes. And like both of those were probably good decisions, right?
Very good. Yeah. And that's true because I'm very much about every time we leave, I'll say, or when we walk up to someone, I'll say, were they kind? Are they kind? How are they dealing? Do they have integrity? And I won't deal with someone who doesn't have integrity, tying in because
that integrity is the middle finger. That's you wearing that that ring on your middle finger. And so what stone is on the middle finger? It looks really clear.
So this is an AB. They call it an AB quartz. It's one of our best sellers because you would love this ring. Just so you know, I got a lot more of them. It's an AB quartz. They're a little treated. Okay, so they're blingy.
Yeah, so AB
So
is the iridescent.
yes,
They're magnetized, and then they're coated with a very light, a very thin iridescent coating, and I think it's some kind of metal, but they call it aura quartz sometimes or
yeah,
whatever,
and
right?
these are heat treated, so it's not going to come off. These are in the stone. So some people will say, our belief is that adds to the stone because whether it's titanium or silver or whatever's added to it, it's another element that's adding to the stuff.
Yeah. So what's the metaphysical or the correspondence with that stone as it's treated as an aura AB quartz?
Okay, so it's mystic. It's a very high chakra, high intuitive stone.
Yeah.
Very in getting in touch with your intuition, and me wanting to know who I'm dealing with probably when I'm getting stones.
Right. So that's again that similar thing of connecting that crown and root, that rootedness, groundedness, and that crown of like connection. I just think it's amazing that you're wearing very similar metals, similar colors on that hand. And that's really about the other thing that I'll say is when we enforce those two fingers, this is also you as teacher in the world, right? And so feeling comfortable being someone who is conveying knowledge with the teacher pose, and we see that in the Hierophant card. We see it in icons of Christ or of saints from the East. This is the classic teacher pose, and so you're inadvertently having that teacher persona sort of locked in when those are comfortable on those fingers. Now, what's interesting is the days that you're like, I cannot wear this ring today. That's when you got to stand. That's when you're feeling the gumption to stand on your own and say, you know what? I don't really need support in this. I'm going to do it myself. Or I really need to have some like freedom to be like off the clock with teaching or something. And so this is true of everyone. When you wear rings on different fingers and they're comfortable or not comfortable to wear, that's how that works. That's just an example from your right hand, which is cool.
That's so fascinating. Thank you for doing that. And I just wanted you guys, everybody watching and listening, to see how amazing it is that how Jim does this, because that's also part of, if you get a reading from him, it's another thing he'll just throw in. He'll go, I noticed you have this on this finger. And it's always just the term, spot on.
Yeah.
It's very, very accurate.
It is. I think it's amazing though, the way you can actually pull all that together and and make it really flow very easily to make somebody understand, even if it never heard that before, they don't know all the terminology maybe or something like that. And it's very nice how you able to work that around so they understand it. So that's that teacher aspect of it.
One of the things that
he explains things so easily. The first time we ever met, we connected pretty quickly, and everything was just, I was a little intimidated because he's bigger than life. He is divine, you guys. And so, I've got my rings and I'm like, whoa, what am I showing, here? Because, hey, I'm up, I'm down, I'm all around. And so I have to work on myself every day. So did you have some people commenting that wanted to?
Oh, there was all types of there.
There are people definitely commenting.
I will say, that's awesome.
They're coming through. So if Roger's looking.
Oh, it's great. I will say one of the things that was pointed out to me today that I thought was really interesting is how if someone gets a tarot reading and the tarot cards have like death and the 10 of swords, it's really hard to tell the client, oh, everything looks great, right? Because the client can just look at the dang cards and be like, wait, the devil, death, and this person looks like they're stabbed to death? What? Right? There's certain images on the cards that really can't be denied. In palmistry, there isn't that. And so it's for charlatans, it's unfortunately easy for people to just say whatever they want about someone's hand. So I think that's why I like to explain to people what I'm seeing and what it means, and then the interpretation for them. So when you get a reading from me, it is educational. Everyone becomes a little bit of a palm reader because they don't have the benefit of seeing a really clear image on like a card or something that says, a word that makes sense.
Right. I like that because, and then they can, exactly. And it's, it's funny. I just got a little sidetracked here, but what's funny on the cards is that they're not, we were pulling cards and for someone, and every card, you know, when you pull the cards and just every card's like,
it was like every other card. Ooh, that's not
okay.
yeah.
Okay. But the thing is they usually know. I know this is off the topic, but the person usually knows. I'm not I really am not very much of a Pollyanna. The people who know me as a reader, we were talking about this, right, the other day, and I'm not a real Pollyanna reader. That does not make you a dark reader. That makes you real. And
Right.
the person you're sitting with, they want hope, of course. You want to end with a little, give me something where I can course correct, or I can pivot. I can do something to course correct here. But most of the people coming, when I was going through my divorce of 26 years, I got the Tower card a lot. I got a lot of cards. And if somebody had said, your life is great, I would have said, bye. You don't know what you're not being honest, or you're not a good reader to someone, so that's the same thing. I like that you explain, and since they can't see that words.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that the easiest reading to give someone is the reading that tells them how horrible things are without then talking about the remedy for that. And I think the hardest reading is the reading that actually gives people a little bit of the tough love and calls you into your best and most aligned being. That's hard. And those are the readings that I strive to do. Is it might be a little bit of spiritual butt kicking, but it's part of your growth. It's like I want my personal trainer to have me actually lift the weights, right? If I go to a personal trainer and they lift my arms for me, or they lift the weights for me, or they're like, oh no, Jim, you don't have to work that hard today. Well, what the heck am I paying you for? I can be lazy all by my damn self.
Right. Do you remember that when we, for everybody listening, Jim came here, taught a class pre-COVID and everything with Madam Hamida, and it was one incredible class. Another whole class you can take, a tarot and palmistry mashup, which he referred to. You guys, I'm just summarizing this up really quick to get to my point, with the Hierophant card, which has the teacher symbol and all this kind of stuff. And this is also he touches on it some in the class we're doing now through Soultopia, but that's a separate class. And so we went to dinner afterwards, and you are someone who gave me some tough love. We were talking, and this is a little off the subject again, but I want people to know also that if they do contact you, you are an ordained minister, and to me, you are a minister. You are in that pastoral role of like really saying, you might want to look at this. And I had told you something that was going on in my life, and I felt like I keep attracting the same thing, and kind of woe is me, but I don't want to be woe is me. And you gave me some advice, and anybody else that had given me that advice, I probably were like, whatever, I'm not doing that. I did it. And Roger knows.
Yep.
And I took your advice. And it really led to a lot of healing. It didn't, just like my book toss, it didn't necessarily lead to totally mended, perfect outcomes of relationship, but it healed, it did a lot of healing for me. So I'm saying this not only, and I've told you this before, but to tell everyone listening that when you do get someone who's not only can do palmistry, but is also someone who is they're not just saying, hey, and check, I'm an ordained minister, but they really can talk to you and give you that tough love and say, but in a way that you can receive it. Jim is one of those people. So when
They're
he gives
so
out
sweet.
when he gives out his number at the end, this is something that, and we are going to have him, we've talked about it. We're talking maybe August. We're throwing some dates around to come when we're in. As y'all know, everything's kind of, we have to play around with dates and stuff, but you can, even before then, you can book a reading, and you can ask him things like that. You can be very honest, and you can trust him to say, I'm having this problem. There was no judgment in it whatsoever. There was absolutely no judgment that I felt.
And I think that's the important thing.
But what you might want to do is
right. That's the important thing, is readers who can hear. You do that too, right? I feel heard when I'm with you, and that's an important thing, without judgment, right? That is really our work. I mean, I do operate as a high priest of our group here in Seattle. For 25 years, I am trained in a form of counseling called reevaluation co-counseling, and I happen to be a palm reader, right? And those are really helpful, skills to have, to know my limit, what's out of bounds for me, like, sorry, this person needs therapy, not a palm reading, but also to be able to offer insights to people and know when, it's the right time and when people are open. So I remember one of the things I asked you is, are you interested in a perspective? I mean, I didn't just give it to you, right?
No.
That was to be the other thing, is I asked you, I'm like, I have an idea for you if you wanted to sort of experiment with some form of healing for that. And you were like, okay, go ahead. Right. And you did it. Michelle, you did it because you decided to try it, right? So I know you're crediting me, but this is like a lot of the readings that I've had. When this client came to me and she tells me after the reading, like several weeks later, you saved my marriage, right? I'm like, no, I appreciate that. Thank you. But you saved your marriage. I helped you see the bird's eye view of what was happening.
Right.
Or a bird's eye view.
I agree with that, but
so props to be able to listen.
That. And that timely placed word.
So cool.
I love that. So you have a master, if quickly, and then we're going to do some readings. You agreed to do some readings. You guys don't let Jim fool you. He's extremely intuitive. He does read palms. That's his main gig, but he does all kinds of intuitive work. This man's highly intuitive. Can I just take a commercial break and show y'all my boots that I got in Tucson?
What?
Look.
Let's see them.
Are they not fabulous? Look, you guys. They're from, where are they from? Turkey. We got some Turkish lamps, and this place sells to an amazing store in Boulder too. And we got some Turkish lamps and got.
Now, are those the embroidered? Those are embroidered, aren't they?
These are.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
And they only had one size 38, which is my size in case anybody ever wants to know and you want to buy me some Jimmy Choos or whatever. But these are some Louboutins or some of these. But there was one, look at them, y'all. Okay, I have this boot fetish. I just love boots. And so one time I just set my white little boot up, and didn't I, Matt? Matt's rolling his eyes behind here, I know. He's like, we had it going. She was being a little professional.
Do you have an Imelda Marcos closet for your shoes and boots?
We need one.
I think we're going to take, I was just thinking the other day that maybe we should convert one of the bedrooms into a costume.
A costume?
A design, decorating makeup.
Let's do it.
Costume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway.
A dungeon?
Well, I don't read feet. I don't read feet, so FYI.
Well,
I do have.
What about butts? Who wants to find a butt reader?
Well, he brought it up.
She just died.
Jim who brought up Sylvester Stallone's mom.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Jackie Stallone just died. She was a rhopologist. started as a joke. And she was like, all right, I'll read your ass. And then she did.
Apologies.
Yeah.
Okay. They also have the sketch artist. And I wish I'd had mine when it was kind of good, and now it's kind of, So now I want the Photoshop version of my broncologist reading, not the
butt lifted version.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't forget at the end.
Before we do readings.
Before we do readings, we have our Soultopia class. We have that you can still sign up for, because look, guys, I missed last week. I had the first week. It's only 4 classes. You can still sign up. It's really fun to be live with him. And then you can also sign and catch up. Okay, so I know you want to run right after this and sign up, or whenever you watch this, just hurry up and run and sign up. And then you also have a mastery class or something coming up.
I do. This is not yet out there on the web, but very shortly it will be out there. I have the super primo 20-week or so Palmistry Mastership course. So you will learn the Divine Hand Palmistry. It's more than 30 hours. There's tons of salons where we get to read hands and have hands-on practice with people. It's conducted over Zoom. This class is mind-blowing, and it's really designed. Anyone can take it. Anyone can take it who's taken any of my classes, or who is just a beginner. Even a beginner can take it. But I'm really targeting people who have some familiarity with tarot or astrology or another form of divination, or even magical practice. Perhaps you haven't yet gone pro. Perhaps you are a professional reader and you really want to, offer palmistry, compassionate, evolutionary, modern, and fabulous palmistry to your clients. This is 100% the course for you. You get a certificate at the end, which is just in my method. It's not meant to control you or whatever. But it's a really fantastic course. I've taught it twice before. Both have resulted in the participants creating a business and they are professional palm readers. And I trust them. They read my palms. I trust them implicitly. Whenever there's an event that I can't do, they take over. It's stuff like that. So this is legit. People who are really legit and ready to take it to the next level with palmistry. I love teaching, and it's the very first time I'm doing it on Zoom. So the price is going to be super amazing. And I just encourage people to check it out.
Okay. And they need to go to
my website. So my website is thedivinehand.com. And you can either respond to the pop-up window that asks you to subscribe to my newsletter, or you can go to the subscribe button and subscribe to my it's not really a newsletter, but subscribe to my email list. I will be mostly letting my email list know and giving a huge discount to my email list. And everyone who's taken one of my courses, all are going to qualify for this amazing discount on the course. So I really recommend people, subscribe to my email list and check it out. It's definitely life-changing to understand how people's body language transmits what's beneath the surface and metaphysically what's happening. It's amazing.
I love that. Okay. Sign me up.
Sign you up.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I can do it. He didn't have to do it. All right. So we're going to, how are we on time? We're going to take we've got
13 minutes.
13 minutes to take a few readings, and we'll let Roger is looking down at that right now. He's not just being rude. He's looking to see.
I'm trying to be rude.
He's just being rude. He's just looking down. And who do we have? Anybody that's interested? And I tried to post it. It's just I'm behind on my posting. And so many things to post, right, you guys? We have so much to do on social media these days. It's hard to keep up.
It takes a few minutes.
It takes a few minutes to catch up.
So Jim, when you got started, what happened? Like some people are drawn to like tarot cards and crystals. What drew you to palmistry itself?
Oh, it was the first thing that I found. I was in visiting my grandparents, um, and in the attic, I stumbled across a pamphlet that's from the 50s that said, "Your future's in your hands." And that was just the start of it. And I read my brother's palm, and my mom said, "That's devil worship. Don't do that." And so that's how you get a kid who's 16 to do anything, is just tell them when they're 11 that it was devil worship.
A
So,
sign. Yeah.
right. So that is really where it started. And it's funny, Roger, I never really got into tarot cards or astrology. I really was just palmistry forever and ever. And even now I'm getting into astrology and tarot a little bit, but it's palmistry that has really always called to me. And I guess because it's unique, because I like to be different.
Well, now palmistry is just in demand. I mean, people
Yeah.
walk in all the time. They want palmistry, palmistry, palmistry. I mean, I
Mhm.
said that 3 times
Yep.
fast too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Palmistry, they really do.
Especially
So,
palmistry you can trust, that isn't someone telling you, like, people are terrified that, like, oh, I have a short lifeline, I don't want my palm read. And that's one of the myths. The length of your lifeline does not indicate, which was our last class we had, the length of your lifeline doesn't indicate the length of life. It indicates a quality. It does indicate a quality of your life, but not how long you'll live. So those are really important things to understand. Just like the tarot cards, if you pull the devil, it doesn't mean you're possessed or you have a curse on you, right? But it used to mean that people used to be afraid that they would get some scary card. So that's why I'm in the business of trying to transform palmistry, just like astrology and tarot has been transformed. Palmistry is a little late to the game on that.
yeah, I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
So, and where we are presenting, I think makes a difference too, and how we present ourselves, which you
Right.
do a job of. Do we have anybody that wants to?
Yes.
I know they'll come later. They'll be like, well, why didn't you see me? When it's hard to get them on the spot.
So Carlton,
Okay, so Carlton, I believe you met Carlton.
and he says the general reading, and he has his Larimar ring on his middle finger.
Okay.
The middle of his forefinger.
Okay. Is Carlton in the palmistry class, or has he had time?
Yeah. No, he hasn't. He's
Okay.
not.
Carlton's still working for us, and he's my favorite. So we're just going to do card readings now, Carlton. I don't know if that's going to come up for you with Jim or not.
So
Okay.
Carlton is wearing a ring in the middle of his index finger. Is that what you just said?
Yes.
That's his fourth chakra. So that's his heart chakra. So is it his right hand or left hand?
Oh, he didn't say.
Okay.
My guess
Well,
is, though, knowing him, is he's on his right hand.
Okay, so I'd say, Carlton, look at how you're in charge of your heart chakra. Look at how you have agency, and I would love for your heart chakra to be expansive like Jupiter, rather than restrictive or fearful that you're not loved. And so my number one thing for you is embrace your lovability. Know that you're wearing the ring on that finger, to know that you are worthy of an amazing relationship, and of your relationship being amazing, and that you're completely lovable. And I've seen you. You're so cute. So
We love him. Yes, thank you. I'll say thank you for him. So
that's what I'd say. That ring clicks in for me.
Okay. I'll give a reading for Carlton for just a general reading. Okay. I'm reading from our cards, our Soultopia cards. Carlton loves the crystals too. And Carlton, I got the Rainforest Jasper. And this is something about you connecting with something from your far past that needs healing. Now, briefly, because we're going to do lightning round fast once I stop. No, I'm kidding. But that's so simple. Everybody says, oh, we need to heal our past. There's some trauma. This is very specific. And here's what's coming to me very specifically. It's odd. You ready? It was something that happened when you were searching for Easter eggs around the age between 3 and 6, if you can recall. There needs to be some healing around that. It could be as simple as taking all your eggs, and I would like to hear later. That's as deep as I'll go into it. Okay.
I think
there needs to be some healing. He's back.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So some healing around that. What you got?
Okay, so Carlton, I got the Two of Cups. Put this up here. Two of Cups. I got Chris Ann's deck. But what I really was drawn to here is the color in each of these cups. You have one that's red and blue. Yeah, one's red, one's blue, right? But look at the colors coming from the hands and around, all the multicolors there, right? The cool thing about that is that, your energies are very well blended, and you're, on that path of finding that blended for yourself also. So just be on the lookout for that openness, and keep yourself open for this opportunity coming ahead.
To blend
with some other energies. With other people.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see that. Who's next?
Barbara.
All right. So, general.
Yeah, let's see. Did not say it, but yes.
Okay, so Barbara.
Okay, I have a Palmistry divination system that I've created. And so Barbara, when I ran that Palmistry divination, you got the hardest card to get, because it only occurs once in the cycle of choosing it. You got all possibilities. So let me read that to you, what that says. All possibilities, Barbara. This is the wild card, the card of all possibilities. You may follow your desire to success. So I just want to lay that out. Like, that sounds like, oh, what do? I want an answer. The answer lies in your desire. And to truly understand that, which is related to something we call true will. So I'd encourage you to do some reflection on desire.
I like that. Barbara, I drew the amethyst card, and in my book, I did a little bibliography. I love to do that. Bibliomancy. I love to do that with books, and I did it for you. But I kind of looked, but I did open straight to the crystal page, and then I just flipped to the amethyst page in my book. And I call amethyst the transmutation by fire crystal, because a lot of crystals, citrine in particular, they heat up amethyst and they turn it into other stones. Okay, so to me, it's a great example of transmutation. Okay, citrine is really amethyst a lot of times. Okay, so what I'm getting for you is that you can begin to work on some things that, instead of just dealing with it and say, I'm just stuck with it and I have to deal with it, you can little by little start using some of the methods in my book to change your situation. Start off with little things and just have an amethyst with you. Most people have an amethyst is not a picture of one, or just visualize one, that beautiful purple. And I'm getting exactly for you with it is sometimes the way you feel around certain people that might give you some sort of a just feeling of like, I can't take it anymore. So it's this area up here above our throat. Okay, up here.
All right, very good. So what I got here was the Eight of Swords, Barbara. Okay, the Eight of Swords. One thing is, if you'll notice, she's actually looking in the mirror there, and at the bottom, she's sitting there in front of the mirror. But what I get from this card for you is a lot of times our own thoughts, our own inner thoughts, are what kind of hold us back. And so I want you to start, every time you get those thoughts of kind of, it's holding you back, or something's holding you back. Is it really something, or is it kind of what you created? And look at it more that way, and see if it's something that you need to change the way you're thinking or the way you're looking at the situation.
Don't so many of us hold ourselves back, sometimes thinking, I know I do, sometimes thinking that I assume, and then that holds me back. So yeah, I received that message too, Barbara. Yeah, it's a good message. Yeah. All right, do we have time for
Mariah?
Okay, so Mariah, is that Beauty Blue Mariah?
Yes, it is.
Mariah, I needed you to do this makeup tonight. Mariah is a beautiful, and she does readings and makeup. And you guys, she's somebody else we want to have on the show. She's amazing.
I love what you said about Mariah just now, because the archetype that came up for her in my system is the Mount of Venus. The Mount of Venus is here at the bottom of the thumb. Now is the time for self-love. Here's a little tagline from the goddess herself. All acts of love and pleasure are my rituals. You are called, and they are called for as you rest, relax, and rejuvenate. Venus embraces you without negative judgment and revels in your beauty. I am mind blown that that's what came up on my system when you talked about her.
I love that. That's perfect for Mariah. Should we just stop on that one?
Yeah, right.
Let's just stop.
That's good.
That's good. Mariah, we're good to go on that one. Okay, aren't you? Yeah, I would take that. Right? Do we do some more? Do we have? I can't see the time. So
it's 8:29.
Got a couple minutes. Let's do our 1, 2, 3. So this is how this works, Jim. I'm sure you've seen it on different ones, or you've probably done it. We're going to have everyone listening or watching, or if you watch or listen later, get in your mind right now, number 1, number 2, or number 3. And as Carlton says, no cheating, y'all. When you listen to it later, don't change your mind just because you want the one that somebody else said. Get an intention. This is your message. You're going to read 1, Jim. And Jim's reading 1, and then Roger will read 2. I'll close out the show with 3. Sit it in your mind. Get it in your mind now. Are you number 1, number 2, number 3? And this is going to be for this coming week. Okay, you guys, this coming week. And
awesome.
Jim will read first.
I love it. So for this coming week, if you chose number 1, is that really what you chose? You're not cheating, are you?
No cheating.
Just kidding. No cheating. If you chose number 1, that is the Mount of Luna, which is located here on your palm. And the message is, trust your intuition. Allow imagination to explore unseen possibilities and even outlandish ideas. Embrace and make space for this type of creativity this week. It will serve you well.
Okay.
Very good.
I love that. You're number 2.
I'm number 2. Okay, so number 2 is out there. I got the 5 of Wands. Okay, I'll actually like this card because I think this actually has a really good meaning behind it that a lot of people will kind of not always see. But if you're through the week, there may be some conflicts coming up with other people that you see as conflicts. But I bet you, if you really take a step back and look at it, the goal that they're trying to get to is the same goal you're trying to get to. It's just a different way of looking at things. So take a second and just look at what the outcome is, where you're trying to do, what they're trying to do, and see what the outcome is, and see if it's not the same thing where both of you or multiples of you can work together to get to that goal easier than what it normally would be for you, especially if you're fighting against each other because you're each trying to present your opinions about it.
That's a great message. I always choose 2.
Michelle.
So, yeah, that's a great message. Thank you. All right. So we always say if anybody wants to ever rig it against me, they know I always choose 2. All right. So I want to tell Michelle this. Okay. I know exactly what to put. All right. Seriously, you guys, number 3s for this week. I got orange calcite, and it's, the calcites, the fluorites, the agates, the calcites are something I really encourage everyone to use more of. They're very affordable. And they're just beautiful, and they come in so many beautiful colors, and we're bringing some beautiful orange calcite back. I think of it almost like a dreamsicle. Do y'all remember those pops? They had cream inside and they're orange on the outside, and it's just very soothing. And so number 3s, it's all the way from depression to feeling really, really super down, to you're just not feeling quite yourself maybe this week. Whatever label you want to put on it, I'm not going to assign it. I'm going to tell you that the orange calcite comes up and is just saying it's going to help you balance your emotions. Now, like Jim said earlier, we're doing the work. The support, the tool is the crystal. The crystal's not the magic panacea that's going to fix everything for us. It's not the magic. It's you. And so, but the orange calcite will calm you. It also just quickly resonates or connects to your solar plexus a little bit and your sacral chakra. So find something that makes you feel some joy this next week. And just take that time for something. And even if I need to say this, even if there's somebody that you feel like, I can't even get out of bed, we have a group, nothing having to do with Soultopia. It's called A Dance a Day. It's on Facebook, and because there were a couple of us that were, a friend of mine that was kind of housebound and not COVID bound, but just couldn't, she would pass out if she got out of bed. And so we put dances, we put songs on there, even if you can just tap your feet, something that will bring us joy. Orange calcite this week for all of us. And I want to thank you, Jim, so much for coming on. Give us the best way to find you one more time. And we will put it also, but tell us one more time the best way to find you.
Best way to find me is on Instagram at DivineHandJim, or on my website, thedivinehand.com. Subscribe to my email list, watch my free class, and just interact. And everything I do on Instagram is super fun, and y'all follow it, so you know. So
it is really fun, you guys. And I just want to thank everybody. I want to remind you that we do have next week, we have Jan Langbein. She's the CEO of Genesis Women's Shelter. She will be coming to talk to us about some of the things that have gone on during COVID, the unfortunate rise in domestic violence, and how actually Prince Harry and Meghan came through and gave them some money to help when their roof fell through during Snowvid, and talking about I've been working with Genesis and they've helped me personally for, I don't know, a long time, 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
about 30 years,
about 30 years.
And we also have Brittany. It's called A Knock at Midnight. She's going to be coming on. Her book is by Crown Publishing, and you can look at on SoulWhat, and it's about people being held unjustly in jail and incarcerated unjustly. She's going to be on our show, and that's a bestseller book that's out right now, and she's going to talk about that the next week. And then we have some other, just like Jim, wonderful people coming on, so just be looking all the time. Also, all the goodies that we're bringing back. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks again, Matt Stoker, for your just being flexible with us while we've been gone. And thanks for joining us tonight, where we discuss matters that are important to our soul, and you discern and you decide what's important to yours. Have a great night.
Good night, guys.
bye all.